The Joyful Stoic. Ancient Lessons for Modern Happiness. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Most people spend their lives chasing happiness, believing it lies somewhere in the future, after success, after wealth, after achieving the perfect life. Yet, no matter how much they acquire, fulfillment always seems just out of reach. The ancient Stoics understood this illusion. They taught that joy is not found in external achievements but in how we perceive and engage with life itself. True happiness is not something to be pursued, it is something to be practiced. The joyful Stoic does not waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. They do not fear hardship, nor do they rely on temporary pleasures for contentment. Instead, they cultivate resilience, embrace challenges as opportunities, and find meaning in the present moment. They understand that life is fleeting, and because of that, every moment matters. At the core of Stoic philosophy is memento mori, the practice of remembering that death is inevitable. This is not meant to inspire fear but to eliminate distraction. It is a call to stop delaying, to stop living according to the expectations of others, and to start focusing on what truly matters. The awareness of mortality clears away the trivial and leaves only what is essential: wisdom, virtue, and the way we choose to live each day. Centuries after the Stoics, Steve Jobs echoed this timeless wisdom in his 2005 Stanford commencement speech. "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life." He understood that reflecting on death is not morbid, it is freeing. It helps us cut through fear and hesitation, empowering us to follow our own path. "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life," he urged. This book is an invitation to do the same, to live with clarity, purpose, and an unshakable sense of joy. Chapter 1. Control what you can, release what you can't. Epictetus once said, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not." This single idea is the foundation of Stoic peace. Most suffering stems not from events themselves but from our resistance to them. We fight reality, trying to control what cannot be controlled, while ignoring the true power we have over our own minds. The joyful Stoic learns to distinguish between these two realms, focusing only on what is within their grasp. Imagine a person stuck in traffic, fuming at the delay. They curse the cars ahead, honk in frustration, and arrive at their destination already exhausted. Did the traffic cause their misery, or was it their refusal to accept an uncontrollable situation? The Stoic approach would be different. They would recognize that the traffic itself is beyond their power, but their attitude toward it is fully within their control. They might use the time to listen to an audiobook, practice deep breathing, or simply accept the stillness. The event remains the same, but the experience changes entirely. This distinction applies to every area of life. You cannot control other people's opinions, only how you respond. You cannot stop misfortune from happening, but you can decide how you will face it. You cannot dictate the course of the world, yet you can govern your actions within it. The mistake most people make is inverting this equation. They obsess over external outcomes while neglecting their own internal mastery. They chase approval, fearing rejection. They agonize over the past, wishing it were different. They fear the future, trying to predict an unknowable fate. This is the root of unnecessary suffering. The Stoics offer a simple yet powerful antidote: radical acceptance of what is. This does not mean passive resignation. It means understanding what can be shaped and what must be embraced. If a relationship ends, you cannot force someone to stay, but you can choose to learn from the experience. If you lose your job, you cannot change the decision, but you can adapt, find new opportunities, and grow stronger. Resistance to reality only deepens pain, while acceptance opens the door to peace. A practical exercise in control is the dichotomy of control test. When faced with stress, ask yourself, is this within my power? If yes, act. If no, release it. Someone criticizes you? Their words are beyond your control, but your response is yours to choose. A flight is cancelled? The delay is out of your hands, but how you spend the time is not. With practice, this habit reshapes how you navigate the world. Instead of being tossed by every wave, you learn to stand firm, anchored in what truly belongs to you. There is an unexpected freedom in letting go. We assume control gives us security, yet often it does the opposite. The more we cling to control, the more we suffer when things refuse to bend to our will. The joyful Stoic releases this burden. They do their best where they can, and where they cannot, they surrender. This surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that life flows as it will, and our task is not to force the river but to navigate it skillfully. Think of Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire while facing war, betrayal, and personal loss. Despite all, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." If the leader of Rome, carrying the weight of a vast empire, could practice this, so can we. Each day offers a choice: struggle against the inevitable or align with it. The world will continue as it always has, full of uncertainty, change, and imperfection. The joyful Stoic moves through it with grace, mastering only what is theirs to master. The rest, they let go. Chapter 2. Reframing Hardship as Growth. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Every hardship, every setback, and every painful moment is an opportunity in disguise." The difference between those who crumble under adversity and those who thrive is not in the circumstances they face but in how they interpret them. The joyful Stoic does not resent challenges. They welcome them, knowing that hardship is the training ground for strength, wisdom, and resilience. Imagine two people who lose their jobs on the same day. One spirals into self-pity, blaming the economy, their boss, and bad luck. The other, though shaken, sees an opening to grow. They sharpen their skills, explore new opportunities, and eventually find a better path. The event was the same, but the response was different. One saw misfortune, the other saw a lesson. This is the power of reframing hardship, not as an obstacle, but as fuel for growth. Hardship is inevitable. The Stoics did not teach avoidance of suffering but mastery of response. They understood that life is unpredictable. You will lose people you love. You will fail despite effort. You will face rejection, injury, and uncertainty. Trying to escape suffering is like trying to stop the tide. Instead of resisting, the wise learn to stand firm and ride the waves. They use adversity as a teacher, sharpening their patience, endurance, and understanding. A broken heart is painful, but it teaches resilience. A failed business is disappointing, but it teaches strategy. Illness is difficult, but it teaches gratitude. The events themselves are neutral, the mind assigns meaning. The joyful Stoic trains their mind to see lessons where others see loss. Nothing is wasted when viewed through the lens of growth. In moments of struggle, ask yourself, what can this teach me? Instead of cursing the difficulty, dissect it. If anger arises, it reveals an attachment to control. If fear surfaces, it exposes a lack of trust in yourself. If failure stings, it uncovers an over-identification with success. These moments are not enemies, they are mirrors, reflecting back what needs refinement. The joyful Stoic does not avoid these lessons. They lean into them, knowing that each challenge is shaping them into something stronger. Seneca advised practicing voluntary hardship to build resilience. Sleep without comfort. Fast for a day. Walk instead of driving. These exercises do not exist to inflict suffering, but to prepare the mind. When comfort is stripped away, you realize how little is needed to endure. You learn that happiness is not tied to luxury but to mindset. When true hardship arrives, you meet it with less fear, knowing you have trained for this moment. Growth often arrives disguised as misfortune. A job rejection pushes you toward a better career. A difficult breakup forces you to develop self-reliance. A financial loss teaches you discipline. At first, these moments seem cruel, but with time, you see their purpose. The joyful Stoic does not fight against life's trials. They see them as invitations to evolve. The Stoics viewed hardship as a blacksmith views fire. The heat does not destroy the metal, it strengthens it. The pressure does not break the sword, it forges it. The same applies to the mind. Without adversity, character remains soft, untested, and weak. With it, one gains wisdom, patience, and strength. The joyful Stoic understands this, and welcomes difficulty not with dread, but with quiet confidence. Marcus Aurelius faced war, betrayal, and the loss of children. Yet in his meditations he reminds himself, what stands in the way becomes the way. The very thing we fear is often the key to our transformation. Every challenge is a door. We can stand before it, complaining that it is locked, or we can find a way to open it. The choice is ours. When adversity arrives, do not shrink. Stand tall. Ask what it has come to teach you. Train yourself to see hardship as a teacher, not a tormentor. With each difficulty you grow, and with each lesson you move closer to unshakable peace. Chapter 3. Emotion is information, not identity. The Stoics never taught the suppression of emotions, only the mastery of them. They understood that emotions are natural, but to be ruled by them is a form of slavery. A joyful Stoic does not deny feelings, nor do they blindly obey them. Instead, they step back and observe, treating emotions not as commands but as signals, information that can be examined, understood, and directed wisely. Imagine a traveler caught in a storm. They do not curse the wind or panic at the rain, they adjust, finding shelter or moving forward with caution. Emotions are like weather patterns of the mind. Fear, anger, sadness, these are not enemies, nor are they instructions. They are conditions to be noticed and navigated. The problem arises when people mistake emotions for absolute truth, assuming that because they feel something, it must be real and permanent. But emotions, like storms, pass. What remains is how we respond to them. Anger arises. It signals that a boundary has been crossed. Fear emerges. It reveals an uncertainty that needs examination. Sadness lingers. It points to a loss or unmet need. Each feeling is a messenger, offering insight into ourselves. The mistake is in letting these messengers take control, dictating actions before reason has a chance to intervene. The joyful Stoic listens but does not obey without question. They pause, examine, and then decide. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Many assume this means suppressing feelings, but the opposite is true. Power over the mind comes not from force but from understanding. A Stoic does not deny that they are angry, they acknowledge it, investigate its source, and then choose whether to act. The untrained mind reacts instantly, like a puppet pulled by strings. The trained mind observes first, responding with wisdom instead of impulse. Consider someone who is insulted. The immediate reaction might be outrage, a desire to retaliate. But what if they pause? What if they question the necessity of anger? Is the insult truly an injury, or merely words? Does another's opinion dictate their peace? By stepping back, they gain freedom. They realize that no one can force them to feel anything without their consent. The insult exists, its power is theirs to grant or deny. Seneca advised practicing emotional awareness through journaling. When a strong emotion arises, write it down, dissect it. What caused it? Is it justified? Will it matter in a week, a month, a year? By putting emotions into words, they lose their grip. They become objects of study, rather than sources of suffering. This simple act transforms reaction into reflection, giving power back to the individual. Another practice is the view from above technique. Imagine watching your life from a great height, as if observing a stranger. Would you tell them to rage at minor inconveniences? Would you encourage their despair over things beyond their control? Distance changes perspective. From above, most worries shrink, revealing their insignificance. This exercise reminds the joyful Stoic that emotions are temporary, while choices endure. None of this means emotions should be ignored. Joy, love, excitement, these too are part of the human experience. The key is balance, to feel fully but not be ruled blindly, to welcome emotion as a visitor, not a master, to experience deeply but choose deliberately. The joyful Stoic understands that emotions are neither good nor bad, they are information. What matters is what we do with them. By practicing awareness, pausing before reaction, and reframing perspectives, they cultivate an inner peace that is not shaken by passing storms. The world may provoke, but they remain steady, knowing that true power lies not in suppressing emotions but in mastering them. Chapter 4. Live in alignment with your values. Happiness is not found in fleeting pleasures but in living with integrity. The joyful Stoic does not chase external rewards, nor do they measure success by wealth, status, or the approval of others. Instead, they align their actions with their deepest values, knowing that true fulfillment comes not from what they acquire, but from who they become. Modern society encourages the pursuit of more money, more recognition, more possessions. Yet, despite these achievements, many still feel empty. This is because external success does not guarantee inner peace. A person can have everything and still feel lost if they are not living in accordance with what truly matters to them. Stoicism teaches that real joy comes from virtue. from acting with wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. A person who upholds these principles, regardless of circumstances, will always have a deep sense of purpose. Imagine someone who compromises their integrity for financial gain. They climb the corporate ladder, earning wealth and prestige, yet each decision that betrays their values weighs on them. They feel uneasy, disconnected, as if something is missing. In contrast, another person may have less in material wealth but holds firm to their principles. They act with honesty, treat others with kindness, and pursue meaningful work. They go to bed each night with a clear conscience, free from the burden of regret. The difference is not in what they possess, but in how they live. To live in alignment with your values, you must first define them. Many people drift through life, adopting the beliefs of others without question. They pursue goals set by society without ever asking if those goals align with their true self. The Stoic way is different. It requires reflection. What do you stand for? What qualities do you admire? What kind of person do you wish to be? Clarity in these questions forms the foundation for a meaningful life. Once values are identified, the next step is to act upon them. It is not enough to say you value honesty if you lie when it is convenient. It is not enough to say you value kindness if you mistreat others in moments of frustration. Integrity means consistency between thought, word, and action. The joyful Stoic understands that happiness is not something to be found but something to be lived, moment by moment, choice by choice. Challenges will arise. There will be temptations to abandon principles for short-term gain. There will be pressures to conform, to compromise, to take the easy path. But every moment presents an opportunity. Will you act with virtue, even when it is difficult? Will you choose honesty when a lie would be easier? Will you stand for justice, even when silence is more comfortable? These decisions shape character. The more a person practices virtue, the more natural it becomes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. It is not enough to admire noble qualities in others, you must embody them yourself. Every interaction, every challenge, every moment is a chance to practice virtue." This is how happiness is cultivated, not through external rewards but through internal alignment. If you ever feel lost, return to your values. When making a decision, ask yourself, does this align with the person I want to be? If the answer is no, the path is clear. Choose the action that reflects your highest self. Over time, this practice leads to a deep and unwavering contentment, a joy that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. The joyful Stoic does not seek happiness as an end goal. They simply live well, and happiness follows. They do not chase pleasure or validation. They act with wisdom, courage, and kindness, and in doing so, they find a peace that no material possession can provide. True fulfillment is not in what you have but in who you are. Chapter 5. The Art of Enough, Escaping the Trap of More. The world teaches that happiness is found in having more wealth, more recognition, more possessions. Yet, the pursuit of more is endless. The moment one goal is reached, another appears. The joyful Stoic understands that true contentment does not come from accumulation, but from appreciating what is already present. Enough is not a fixed amount, it is a mindset. Seneca warned against the illusion of fulfillment through excess. He observed that those who constantly chase more are never satisfied, for their desires only grow. A man who acquires a fortune soon desires a larger one. A person who gains status craves even greater recognition. The cycle continues, leaving no room for peace. The Stoic path offers an alternative, the realization that happiness comes not from external gain but from internal sufficiency. Consider two individuals. One spends their life striving for wealth, believing that just a little more will bring contentment. They sacrifice relationships, health, and peace of mind, always chasing an elusive future. The other, though financially modest, lives with gratitude. They appreciate what they have, recognizing that joy is found not in quantity but in perspective. The first remains restless, the second, fulfilled. The difference is not in their circumstances but in their perception of enough. The practice of gratitude is central to escaping the trap of more. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily of life's simple gifts, the ability to breathe, to think, to experience the present moment. By focusing on what is already available rather than what is lacking, the mind shifts from scarcity to abundance. Instead of longing for what is absent, the joyful Stoic treasures what is here. Minimalism is not about deprivation but clarity. It is the deliberate choice to value what truly matters. The Stoics did not reject wealth or success, but they cautioned against becoming enslaved by them. If external achievements define one's sense of worth, then peace remains fragile. If happiness depends on status or possessions, it can be taken away at any moment. But if contentment is rooted in virtue and gratitude, it remains unshaken regardless of circumstances. Practicing voluntary simplicity strengthens this mindset. Seneca advised occasionally living with less, not as punishment but as preparation. Sleep on the floor instead of a bed, eat plain food instead of luxury meals, wear simple clothing. These exercises reveal how little is truly needed for well-being. They free the mind from attachment and build confidence in one's ability to adapt. When comfort is removed, the realization emerges: happiness is not dependent on excess. The joyful Stoic also questions desires. When tempted by the urge for more, they pause and ask, will this truly add to my well-being, or is it merely a distraction? Many pursuits are driven not by necessity but by comparison, by the fear of falling behind. Social expectations create artificial needs, convincing people that their worth is measured by possessions. But when stripped down to essentials, life becomes lighter, freer, and more peaceful. There is nothing wrong with ambition, but ambition without contentment leads to endless dissatisfaction. The Stoic way is to strive while remaining anchored in gratitude, to pursue excellence without being consumed by it, to enjoy success, but not depend on it. This balance allows for both growth and serenity. Enough is not a limitation, it is a liberation. It is the ability to stop running, to embrace the present without waiting for something else to make it complete. The joyful Stoic does not chase happiness in the future. They find it here, now, in the simplicity of what already is. Chapter 6. Freedom through discipline. True freedom is not the absence of rules but the mastery of oneself. Many believe that freedom means doing whatever they want, whenever they want. Yet, a life without discipline leads to chaos. The joyful Stoic understands that real liberation comes from self-control, from the ability to act according to reason rather than impulse. Through discipline, one gains the power to shape their own destiny. Seneca warned that those who lack discipline are slaves to their desires. They are ruled by appetites, driven by distractions, and controlled by fleeting emotions. A person who indulges every craving soon finds themselves trapped, unable to resist temptation, unable to focus, unable to achieve anything meaningful. They may feel free in the moment, but in reality, they are prisoners of their own impulses. The Stoic path offers a better way, the discipline to direct one's actions with intention and purpose. Consider two individuals. One wakes up whenever they feel like it, drifts through the day without structure, and gives in to every urge. They seek comfort over challenge, pleasure over purpose. Over time, their potential remains unrealized. The other follows a disciplined routine, wakes with intention, and directs their energy toward meaningful pursuits. They delay gratification, control their emotions, and strengthen their will. One is free in the truest sense, while the other is ruled by whim. Discipline is not about deprivation, it is about mastery. It is the ability to say no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to rise each morning with resolve, reminding himself that he was born to fulfill his purpose, not to seek endless comfort. The joyful Stoic adopts this mindset, understanding that discomfort in the short term leads to strength in the long term. A simple way to build discipline is through voluntary hardship. Seneca recommended occasionally living as if one had lost everything: sleep on the floor, eat only simple food, wear basic clothing. This practice serves two purposes. First, it prepares the mind for adversity, reducing fear of loss. Second, it builds resilience by proving that happiness is not dependent on luxury. The more one practices discipline, the less they are controlled by external circumstances. Another powerful practice is habit formation. The joyful Stoic knows that small, repeated actions shape character. If one waits for motivation, they will achieve little. Instead, discipline requires creating routines that remove the need for willpower. Waking early, exercising, reading, meditating, these become effortless when ingrained into daily life. By making good habits automatic, one removes the struggle of decision-making and ensures progress without constant effort. Emotional discipline is equally important. The Stoics train themselves not to react impulsively to anger, fear, or frustration. They practiced pausing before responding, ensuring that emotions did not dictate their actions. When insulted, they remained composed. When faced with hardship, they maintained equanimity. This level of control allows one to move through life with peace rather than turmoil. The greatest misconception about discipline is that it makes life rigid or joyless. In reality, discipline creates space for deeper fulfillment. A person who manages their time well has more time for what matters. A person who controls their desires is not easily disturbed. A person who strengthens their mind is not easily shaken. This is the paradox of discipline. It restricts in the moment, but leads to greater freedom in the long run. The joyful Stoic does not see discipline as a burden but as a gift. They understand that through self-control, they are no longer at the mercy of impulses, distractions, or external pressures. They are free to live according to their highest values, to pursue meaningful goals, and to experience life with clarity and purpose. This is the ultimate freedom, the ability to rule oneself. Chapter 7. Savor the present moment. The mind is always reaching toward the future, toward the past, toward something just out of reach. People spend their lives chasing happiness, believing it will arrive once they achieve more, earn more, or fix every imperfection. Yet, the joyful Stoic understands that happiness is not found in tomorrow or yesterday, it is only ever available in the present. To truly live, one must learn to savor the moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This is not a call to fear death but a reminder to embrace life fully. The fleeting nature of existence is not a tragedy but a gift. The fact that every moment passes means that every moment matters. The joyful Stoic does not waste time longing for the past or fearing the future. They anchor themselves in the now, finding meaning in what is before them. Most suffering comes from resisting the present. People wish things were different. They replay old regrets or anxiously construct future worries. Yet both are illusions. The past cannot be changed. The future is not yet real. The only reality is this moment, and to reject it is to reject life itself. The Stoic way is to embrace what is, fully, deeply, without hesitation. Consider a person who walks through a beautiful garden but is lost in thought. Their mind is elsewhere, occupied with worries and plans. They fail to notice the colors of the flowers, the scent in the air, the warmth of the sun. Though they are physically present, they are absent in spirit. Another person walks the same path but with full awareness. They feel the breeze, hear the birds, and appreciate the simple beauty around them. The first person merely exists. The second person truly lives. The difference is not in the setting but in the state of mind. Training the mind to stay present is not easy. Distraction is constant. Yet, with practice, awareness can be strengthened. The first step is noticing. When the mind drifts into worry or regret, gently bring it back. Focus on what is in front of you. Engage fully in each task, whether it is washing dishes, listening to a friend, or walking down the street. Treat each moment as worthy of attention, because it is. Gratitude is another powerful tool for presence. Instead of waiting for some grand event to bring happiness, recognize the quiet joys already present. The warmth of a morning drink. The sound of laughter. The ability to breathe. These are not small things, they are life itself. When appreciated fully, they are enough. The joyful Stoic does not take life for granted. They see each moment as a gift, knowing that nothing is guaranteed. Even hardship can be embraced with presence. Pain is intensified by mental resistance. Worrying about how long it will last or wishing it away only adds to suffering. But by accepting discomfort as it comes, without exaggeration or avoidance, its power diminishes. A cold wind is just a wind. A moment of sadness is just a moment. By observing experience without clinging or rejecting, peace is maintained. Savoring the present does not mean ignoring the future. Planning is necessary. Responsibility is important. But there is a difference between preparing for the future and living in it. The joyful Stoic makes plans but does not let them consume the now. They learn from the past but do not dwell there. They live each day as if it were their last, not in reckless indulgence, but in deep appreciation for what is. Life is not something that happens later. It is happening now. The only question is whether you are paying attention. The joyful Stoic chooses to be fully present, knowing that in this moment, all that is needed is already here. Chapter 8. Amor fati, love your fate. Most people resist life as it is. They wish things had happened differently, they dwell on past mistakes, and they fight against circumstances beyond their control. The Stoics, however, embraced a different mindset, amor fati, or love of fate. It is not enough to simply accept life, one must love it, exactly as it comes. This is the path to true peace and unshakable joy. When difficulties arise, the untrained mind asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The joyful Stoic asks, "How can this serve me?" They do not waste energy resisting reality. They see obstacles as part of the journey, not as interruptions. They do not merely endure hardship, they transform it into something meaningful. This is the essence of amor fati, not tolerating fate, but embracing it fully. Marcus Aurelius faced war, betrayal, and personal loss, yet he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This is the attitude of one who loves their fate. Every setback becomes fuel for growth. Every hardship becomes an opportunity to strengthen character. Nothing is wasted, because everything can be used. Imagine two people experiencing the same failure. One sees it as proof of their inadequacy, falls into self-pity, and gives up. The other views it as a lesson, something that will refine them and push them forward. The situation is identical, only the interpretation differs. The joyful Stoic chooses the second path, knowing that resistance only creates suffering, while acceptance transforms pain into progress. This mindset applies not only to setbacks but to all of life's uncertainties. Plans will fall apart, people will leave, unexpected challenges will arise. But instead of resenting what happens, the joyful Stoic welcomes it. They do not label events as good or bad. They trust that whatever unfolds is exactly as it should be, even if they do not yet understand why. Many misunderstand amor fati, believing it means passive surrender. But the Stoic does not sit idly by. They act with full effort, they strive for excellence, but they do so without attachment to outcomes. They know that life does not always unfold according to their desires, and rather than resist, they align themselves with it. This is the paradox of control. By surrendering the illusion of control, one gains true mastery over life. Seneca taught that we must not only accept fate but welcome it as a friend. If illness comes, we use it to cultivate patience. If loss occurs, we use it to deepen gratitude for what remains. If plans fail, we see it as redirection rather than misfortune. Every experience is a teacher, and life itself is a training ground for resilience. The joyful Stoic does not just survive circumstances, they are shaped and strengthened by them. A practical way to cultivate amor fati is through reframing. When something unwanted happens, instead of resisting, ask, "What good can come from this?" Even in frustration or disappointment, there is always something to learn. Over time, this practice rewires the mind to see life as an ally, rather than an adversary. Loving fate does not mean pretending that everything is easy. It means facing reality with an open heart, knowing that each moment, joyful or painful, is an essential piece of the whole. The joyful Stoic does not pick and choose which parts of life to accept. They embrace all of it, and in doing so they free themselves from suffering, finding peace in whatever comes their way. Chapter 9. Memento Mori, the happiness of mortality. The joyful Stoic does not fear death. Instead, they embrace it as a reminder to live fully. Memento Mori, remember you will die, is not a morbid thought but a liberating one. It strips away trivial concerns, sharpening focus on what truly matters. Those who ignore death waste time on distractions, believing they have endless tomorrows. But those who remember their mortality find clarity, purpose, and a deeper appreciation for life. Marcus Aurelius reflected often on death, writing, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This is not a call to despair but to presence. Every moment is precious because it is fleeting. Life's brevity makes it meaningful. The joyful Stoic does not delay happiness, waiting for a perfect future. They understand that life is now. Every conversation, every sunrise, every simple pleasure is a gift that will not last forever. Most people live as if time is unlimited. They say they will pursue dreams later, repair relationships later, enjoy life later. But later is not guaranteed. How many put off joy, assuming they have years ahead? How many waste days in worry, forgetting that each one is irreplaceable? Memento Mori is a wake-up call. It urges action, not complacency. If this were your last day, how would you spend it? Would you dwell on petty grievances, or would you savor each moment? Fear of death often arises from attachment. People cling to possessions, status, and even their identities, believing they define them. But none of these things are permanent. The Stoics teach detachment, not to reject life, but to experience it more freely. When you realize that everything is temporary, both joy and suffering, you become less anxious, less desperate to control. Instead, you learn to flow with life, embracing each phase as it comes. Seneca advised practicing death in daily life. Not by courting danger but by living with intention. He urged people to reflect each night as if it were their last, to make peace with the day, and to leave nothing unsaid. This practice dissolves regret. Arguments seem pointless. Fear loses its grip. Gratitude grows. Each morning becomes an opportunity, not an obligation. When you live as though each day could be your last, you begin to live as you were meant to. Accepting death also strengthens courage. Many avoid risks, not because they lack ability, but because they fear failure, embarrassment, or loss. But what is there to lose? If life is temporary, then so are setbacks. If death is inevitable, why waste time in hesitation? The joyful Stoic sees this truth clearly. They take action without fear. They speak honestly. They love deeply. They pursue meaning without waiting for permission. Even grief is softened by this understanding. Losing others is painful, but memento mori reminds us that all things are borrowed. Every relationship, every shared moment is temporary. Instead of mourning what is lost, the Stoic mindset cherishes what was given. They do not ask, "Why was this taken from me?" but rather, "How fortunate I was to have it at all." Gratitude replaces despair. Love remains even when presence fades. Some may ask, if life is brief, does anything truly matter? The Stoics answer differently. Because life is brief, everything matters. Every choice, every word, every experience is significant precisely because it will not last. The fleeting nature of existence does not diminish its value, it enhances it. A sunset is more beautiful because it fades. A song is more powerful because it ends. Life is no different. Memento mori is not a warning but a guide. It does not bring sadness but urgency. It asks, are you awake to your life? Are you living as your best self? If not, what are you waiting for? The joyful Stoic does not fear the end. They welcome it, knowing that because life is temporary, it is also extraordinary. Chapter 10. The Stoic Approach to Relationships. The joyful Stoic understands that relationships are one of life's greatest gifts, yet they do not seek happiness through dependence on others. Instead, they cultivate strong connections while maintaining inner stability. Love, friendship, and companionship bring meaning. But they are not possessions to be controlled. The Stoic path to fulfilling relationships is built on mutual respect, acceptance, and an understanding that true peace comes from within. Many suffer in relationships because they expect others to complete them. They seek validation, cling to approval, or fear being alone. Yet, no person can provide permanent happiness. People change. Circumstances shift. To rely on another for fulfillment is to place peace in something fragile. The Stoic approach is different. Instead of grasping, the joyful Stoic appreciates. Instead of demanding, they give freely. They love deeply, but without attachment, knowing that all things in life, even relationships, are impermanent. Marcus Aurelius advised treating each person as they are, not as we wish them to be. Most conflicts arise from expectations. We want others to think as we do, act as we prefer, and meet our needs without flaw. When they do not, frustration follows. The Stoic lets go of these illusions. They accept people as they are, not as projections of their desires. This does not mean tolerating harm but rather recognizing that others are beyond our control. The only power we have is in how we choose to respond. Seneca taught that friendship is most fulfilling when based on virtue, not convenience. Superficial relationships, built on fleeting pleasures or shared interests alone, often dissolve when tested. But true friendships, those rooted in integrity, wisdom, and mutual growth, stand the test of time. The joyful Stoic seeks meaningful connections, surrounding themselves with those who uplift and challenge them. They are not concerned with popularity but with quality, preferring a few deep bonds over many shallow ones. Love, too, is approached with wisdom. A Stoic does not avoid love, but they do not let it consume them. They love fully, knowing that attachment to permanence leads to suffering. People enter and leave our lives. Some stay for years, others only for a season. Instead of resisting change, the Stoic appreciates what was, cherishes what is, and accepts what will be. They do not demand love, but embody it, offering kindness without condition. Difficult people are inevitable. Some will insult, deceive, or betray. The natural reaction is anger, but the Stoic response is different. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people act according to their nature. Just as fire burns and the wind blows, some will behave selfishly or cruelly. This does not mean accepting mistreatment, but it does mean refusing to let others dictate emotional peace. The joyful Stoic does not waste energy on resentment. They either address the issue with reason or walk away with dignity. In all relationships, the Stoic values presence. How often do people spend time together but remain distracted? They check their phones, think about work, or dwell on the past. The joyful Stoic does not let moments slip away unnoticed. When with another, they are fully there, listening, engaging, appreciating. They do not take time for granted, knowing that every interaction could be the last. True strength in relationships comes from balance. To love without attachment, to care without control, to support without losing oneself. The joyful Stoic walks this path, embracing relationships as a source of joy while understanding that real peace is found within. They do not fear loss because they never try to possess. They do not cling because they trust in life's flow. They give not to receive, but because love, when freed from expectation, is its own reward. Chapter 11. Service as a path to joy. The joyful Stoic does not seek happiness through self-indulgence but through contribution. The greatest fulfillment comes not from what is gained but from what is given. Many pursue pleasure, wealth, and recognition, only to find these pursuits empty. Yet, those who dedicate themselves to serving others discover a deeper, lasting joy. To live well is to live beyond oneself. Seneca wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Service is not limited to grand gestures or charitable donations. It is found in the smallest acts, a kind word, a patient ear, a willingness to help without expectation. These moments, though often unnoticed, shape the world in profound ways. The joyful Stoic understands that service is not a duty but a privilege, an opportunity to use one's existence for the benefit of others. Many hesitate to give because they believe they lack enough to offer. They think they must first reach a certain level of success before they can contribute. But service is not about excess, it is about intention. A wealthy person who donates without care does less good than a person who gives with sincerity, even if only a little. True generosity is not measured by amount but by the spirit in which it is given. Marcus Aurelius believed that serving others was a fundamental part of life. Just as a bee makes honey or a tree provides shade, humans are meant to help one another. To refuse this role is to resist nature itself. When people isolate themselves, focusing only on personal gain, they suffer. They become consumed by trivial concerns, disconnected from meaning. But those who embrace service feel a renewed sense of purpose, their lives woven into something greater than themselves. There is a paradox in giving. The more one gives, the more one receives, not in material wealth but in fulfillment. The Stoics understood that true joy is found in being useful. When a person offers support to another, they strengthen their own character. When they show kindness, they cultivate inner peace. When they uplift others, they elevate themselves. A life dedicated to service is a life rich in meaning. Service also teaches humility. The ego desires recognition, seeking applause for every act of generosity. But the highest form of service is done quietly, without need for reward. A Stoic does not give to be praised. They give because it is right. They do not seek validation, for the act itself is its own fulfillment. This mindset frees the soul, shifting focus from self-centered desires to the well-being of all. Difficulties arise when service feels unnoticed. It is easy to become frustrated when kindness is not returned or efforts seem in vain. But the joyful Stoic does not measure actions by outcome. They give because it aligns with their values, not because they expect a particular response. A farmer does not demand gratitude from the crops they plant. They sow because it is their role. Likewise, a Stoic serves without attachment to recognition. One of the simplest yet most profound forms of service is listening. In a world filled with noise, few take the time to truly hear others. To listen without judgment, without rushing to respond, is a rare gift. It requires patience, presence, and empathy. Often the most powerful thing one can do for another is to offer undivided attention. In doing so, they provide something more valuable than advice, they provide understanding. The joyful Stoic does not view service as sacrifice but as an honor. They know that each act of kindness, no matter how small, adds to the collective good. They live not only for themselves but for others, recognizing that true happiness is not in taking but in giving. And in this, they find the deepest joy of all. Chapter 12. The unshakable peace of the joyful Stoic. The joyful Stoic does not seek peace in an ideal future, but cultivates it in the present. They understand that true contentment does not come from controlling life's events but from aligning with life as it is. Most people chase happiness, believing it is something to be acquired, yet the Stoic discovers that happiness is a way of being. It is found in wisdom, virtue, and the acceptance of what cannot be changed. Many live in constant turmoil, believing that peace will come once external conditions improve. They wait for the perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect circumstance, only to find that each achievement leads to new desires. The joyful Stoic breaks free from this cycle. They recognize that peace is not given by the world, it is cultivated from within. They do not wait for life to be perfect before embracing it fully. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The joyful Stoic applies this principle daily. When faced with challenges, they do not resist but adapt. When confronted with negativity, they do not engage but remain steady. When life is uncertain, they do not panic but trust in their ability to endure. This inner stability creates a foundation that cannot be shaken. Equanimity is the key to unshakable peace. It is the ability to remain calm in all circumstances, not through suppression, but through understanding. The joyful Stoic does not react impulsively to praise or criticism, success or failure, pleasure or pain. They accept both joy and hardship as natural parts of life, neither clinging to one nor fearing the other. In this balance, they find freedom. This mindset extends to relationships. Many become distressed when others do not act as expected. They take offense easily, react with frustration, and hold on to resentment. The joyful Stoic approaches relationships differently. They accept people as they are, understanding that they cannot control the behavior of others, only their own responses. They practice patience, compassion, and forgiveness, not for the benefit of others, but for their own peace. Memento mori, the reminder of mortality, reinforces this peace. By reflecting on the temporary nature of life, the joyful Stoic does not waste time in unnecessary worry. They do not let minor inconveniences disturb their tranquility. They do not fear loss, for they have already accepted it as inevitable. This awareness deepens their appreciation for each day, making them fully present in every moment. The practice of gratitude further strengthens this state of mind. Instead of longing for what is missing, the joyful Stoic focuses on what is already here. They recognize that every breath, every experience, and every opportunity to grow is a gift. They do not take life for granted. This gratitude is not dependent on circumstances, it is a way of seeing the world. The joyful Stoic also embraces solitude. They do not fear being alone, for they are at peace with themselves. They use quiet moments to reflect, to grow, and to reconnect with what truly matters. They understand that external distractions often cloud the mind, and by stepping away, they gain clarity. Solitude is not isolation but a return to one's inner self. In the end, the joyful Stoic realizes that peace is not the absence of difficulty but the presence of wisdom. They do not seek to escape life's trials but to meet them with understanding. They do not resist the nature of existence but flow with it. Their joy is not fragile, dependent on circumstances, but strong, rooted in their way of being. This is the unshakable peace of the joyful Stoic. It is available not in some distant future, but right now, in this very moment. Take care and be well.